adjust the frequency and volume a bit?
Startups, originators, musika, kultura, the arts, politika, sports, news, technology, crime, tragedy, comedy, lahat ng makabuluhan.
We are your independent podcast content creator, straight from the Philippine Islands. Mabuhay.
You're listening to Podcast.Ph.
Inamin ko ako nanloting din. Pero lahat ng niloting ko, puro pagkain.
November 8 kasi yung Typhoon Yolanda, yung birthday ko yun eh. November 8, ma-54 na po ako sa November 8. Wala pang nangyari doon dito sa Tacloban yung November 8 sa Yolanda. Every year ako nagsiselebrate. Pero ngayon, hindi na celebration yung pangalan na yan. Yes, kasi nabiktima yung asawa ko na mamatay sa typhoon ng araw na yan. Yung gawin ko lang anniversary ng asawa ko.
Don't worry, in 5 days the food will come. 5 days pa, kinabukasan pa lang wala na kami makain. Pinapakain ko sa mga anak ko, puro nyug lang. Papa, nauwaw ako. Sabaw ng buko.
Utong.
Oo. Yun lang, tapos sabihin 5 days, anong mangyayari? Mula sa local government hanggang national government, ang tagal namin maramdaman.
Buti nga mayroon din NGO tumulong, yun nagbigay para magpagawa ng kabaong.
Tingnan namin baka.
Dahil sa naranasan namin ng bagyo, kunting hangin lang, nagkakaroon na kami ng phobia. Trauma na kami dahil kahit kunting hangin lang. Trauma na kami na natatakot na kami. Kasi siyempre, ayaw talaga namin bumalik pa yung naranasan namin. Mahirap isipin talaga. Nawalan ka na ng mahal sa buhay, nawalan ka pa ng bahay, lahat-lahat nawala sa'yo. Pati panghanap buhay mo nawala.
Nung nasa bahay kami, kasama ko yung nanay ko, tatay ko, 5 pamangkin at saka isa kong kapatid, yung bunso namin. 8 kami dyan sa bahay, siyam kami sa bahay. Tapos nung gabi pa lang, masaya pa kami kasi parang normal lang. Tapos nung kinaumagahan, nagising kami mga alas 4, palakas na yung hangin, kasabay yung ulan. Tapos nung palakas na yun, yung parang sinabayan na rin ng daan-daan na yung mga namin, yung mga bubong, tinutuklap na isa-isa.
Mga oras to?
Mga mag-alas 5 na. Alas 5 pasado.
Nung alas 5 hanggang alas 6, sinasabi na parang andilim-dilim daw nun? Totoo?
Madilim, parang parang paggabi pa lang, parang ganun. Parang mga alas 6 lang sa parang sisimula pa lang talaga yung gabi. Dahil siguro sa na yun, yung sa ulan, siguro sa kapal na ng ulan. Ganun na yun. Tapos nung nasa bahay lang kami, yung talagang natuklap na talaga yung bubong namin, yung nakatayo na lang, yung pader na lang ng bahay namin. Tapos wala na yung gitna ng bubong, wala na.
Nakapag-evacuate ba kayo?
Hindi kami nakapag-evacuate. Yun yung isa pang
So, sinong inanod sa pamilya mo?
Yung inanod sa pamilya ko, yung tatay, nanay ko, 5 pamangkin at saka isang bunso, kapatid.
Welcome to the 21st episode of Martin's Man Cave. This is the Bonfire Podcast documentary series. My name is Martin Andanar. Today we document on Podcast.Ph the first year after Typhoon Haiyan's destruction of Tacloban and the rest of eastern Visayas in the Philippines. Joining us in a moment are Cannes Film Festival acclaimed Filipino director Brillante Ma Mendoza, the government spokesperson of Typhoon Haiyan's rehabilitation program, Attorney Karen Jimeno, and Palanca awardee for literature and host of History, the TV show, Mr. Lourdes Vera.
This Podcast.Ph presentation is supported by Martin Andanar's Homecast Studio and Audio.Ph.
First there was the warning. Then the wind started packing a force of 380 kilometers per hour. It was so powerful, it literally made vehicles fly in the air. After an hour, there was an explosion-like sound coming from the ocean. Witnesses described black, murky water gushing to the shore, then onto the homes, reaching more than a kilometer inland, running as high as 7 meters. This was the storm surge. The winds and the surge ravaged homes, destroyed schools, hospitals, evacuation centers, airport, seaport. It caused immediate blackout. It bogged down communication lines. It destroyed everything that stood its path. 28,000 people injured, 1,800 people missing, thousands dead. Either they were floating on water, trapped inside their homes, or scattered on the streets. National government reported 6,200 people dead. Local government officials questioned this. How could this be? If we gave more than 20,000 body bags, not counting those given by the United Nations and other non-profit organizations. Just as the cadavers started to smell and decay, Tacloban becomes a no man's land. Small stores, malls, gasoline stations, and homes get looted for water, food, and anything people can steal. People were killed for money. Women were raped. Dogs and cats were butchered for food. Every man for himself. Images of anarchy. It was complete pandemonium. Terrifying hell on earth. This was what transpired in Tacloban, Leyte, Philippines, within 24 hours after one of the strongest typhoons on earth named Haiyan hit the province at about 8 o'clock in the morning on November 8, 2013. Those were the scenes in the first 24 hours. This is what happened in the next 8,736 hours.
Hindi pa, wala pang...
Don't worry, in 5 days the food will come.
Sa Tacloban.
Buti nga may buti may unting hangin lang.
Namatay sa typhoon ng araw na yan.
This is a country that experiences over 20 typhoons every year. Surely, this one is just the same as the others that passed. We can just seek refuge under our roofs, clean up the mess the next day, and move on with our lives, just like before. That is what most people said in November 7, 2013. So majority of us just remained calm and went about our daily activities, thinking we were on top of the situation. This was despite the numerous warnings of the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical Astronomical Services Administration, the country's weather bureau. The warnings came early. We were to experience up to 380 kilometers per hour or 235 miles per hour of wind gustiness. Sustained winds of up to 325 kilometers per hour or 195 miles per hour. This was to be a super typhoon or a Category 5. The Weather Bureau said the typhoon is so huge the diameter covers 2/3 of the entire country, stretching 1,850 kilometers. That is equivalent to 1,150 miles. Can you imagine low-pressure clouds covering New York all the way to Florida? In fact, CNN International said it could be one of the strongest typhoons to hit planet Earth. And it turned out to be one of the strongest typhoons to hit our planet. The warnings were everywhere, from the local weather bureau, U.S. Weather Service, Japan Meteorological Agency. Storm chasers from all over the world were in Tacloban. I can still remember the Philippine President's warning a day before Haiyan's landfall. But our preparation was still not enough. The question is, can anyone really prepare for a typhoon of this magnitude? No one could have ever prepared for this typhoon, for no one has ever experienced this type of magnitude. After all, later on, it was declared the strongest typhoon in recorded history. So how does one recover from this massive destruction? It took the Philippine government almost 12 months before a master plan could be approved. Meanwhile, the poor victims do what they can to help themselves with whatever's left of them and whatever non-profit organizations can offer. We asked the spokesperson of the Government Rehabilitation Program, Attorney Karen Jimeno, why the government took almost 1 year to approve the Rehabilitation Master Plan of Tacloban.
Well, one, we submitted the master plan last August, and it took them, the president, the whole of August, September, and October, almost 3 full months to approve it. And this is an 8,000-page master plan. So, of course, I cannot speak for the president because I don't know what was really going on at that time within those 3 months. But I'm assuming that it was because they were studying the master plan. And I'm assuming that because there were times that the Office of the President and the Office of the Executive Secretary would come to us with questions, clarifying certain things. And then when we had a meeting with the President himself around the first week of October, he had questions about timelines and priorities of certain projects and how to pace the funding requirements. So I think it's this a style of leadership wherein he really is very meticulous with details.
What is the reason behind the slow government response?
Well, the question of slowness actually, I think, is a very subjective point of view because we've had now at least two concrete statements from international observers saying that the pace of recovery in the Philippines is faster than other countries. We've had a representative from Plan International and another one who's an ADB vice president saying that we are faster than other countries. For Haiti, for instance, they still have people living in tent cities and it's already 4 years since the earthquake. And Hurricane Katrina, it took them 8 years to achieve full rehabilitation. So I think... but I'm not one to advocate that we are fast or slow. I think we should just look at the situation and then you can be the judge of whether we're fast or slow. But I think for me, what I usually I respond to that by saying that I guess you'd have to look at, one, the situation when we found it, meaning the magnitude of the damage, what the obstacles are, because we have inherent obstacles, including, for instance, land identification for building resettlement sites. You can't just grab land. And we're having problems identifying safe areas that are big enough in order to put resettlement sites on. And you also have the socioeconomic or social challenges of people wanting to really leave the areas that they were living in, even if they are subject to storm surge or flooding. So there's so many challenges that I think makes the question of speed complicated.
How about the red tape? How did this slow down the process of rehabilitation?
I have to cite specific examples to make my answers concrete. For instance, even with our mandate is only at the rehabilitation stage. But let me cite an example for the relief stage, for instance. Some donations in kind. And even right now in rehabilitation, we're also encountering this. If you have foreign donations in kind that are, for instance, equipment or raw materials, they're subject to custom duties. So that's usually a bottleneck because you have a willing donor who can give the donations in kind but don't want to pay for the custom duties, and that's fair enough. But then the whole time that you're deliberating who's going to pay for it, can we get an exemption, that slows down the process. So that's an example. And then another would be, of course, an obvious issue would be resettlement of houses, because you have to build that right away. You have to start that process right away because they don't get built overnight, especially if you're talking about strong permanent houses. And that's a big bottleneck because, one, identification of sites. For instance, our office, we're only a coordinating body. We don't have the power to issue regulations. So can you imagine, you cannot just say that, okay, this area is suddenly available as residential lands, when in fact, under the law, you need ordinances or legislation to convert the use of lands from agricultural to residential, or from forest land to residential or private lands. You cannot just start building there.
This is exactly the reason why local and foreign donors are complaining. Government inefficiency and inflexibility. The reasons why bulk of the $1.6 billion of foreign donations are either sitting in government bank accounts or unaccounted for. Can red tape be suspended during these trying times? Internationally acclaimed and 2009 Cannes Film Festival Best Director Brillante Ma Mendoza saw the devastation several times when he filmed his newest feature, Taklub, and this is what he had to say.
It can be fast.
Can you adjust the frequency and volume a bit?
Startups, originators, musika, kultura, the arts, politika, sports, news, technology, crime, tragedy, comedy, lahat ng makabuluhan.
We are your independent podcast content creator, straight from
Nangyari doon dito sa Tacloban noong November 8 sa Yolanda. Every year ako nagsiselebrate. Pero ngayon, hindi na celebration yung pangalan na yan. Yes, kasi nabiktima yung asawa ko, namamatay sa typhoon ng araw na yan. Yung gawin ko lang anniversary ng asawa ko.
Don't worry, in 5 days the food will come. The food will come. 5 days pa, kinabukasan pa lang, wala na kami
baong.
Tinitingnan namin baka.
Dahil sa naranasan namin ng bagyo, kunting hangin lang, nagkakaroon na kami ng phobia. Trauma na kami. Dahil kahit kunting hangin lang. Trauma na kami, na natatakot na kami. Kasi siyempre, ayaw talaga namin bumalik pa yung naranasan namin.
Pinapakain ko sa mga anak ko, puro nyug lang. Papa, nauwaw ako. Sabaw ng buko. Oo. Yun lang, tapos sabihin 5 days, anong mangyayari? Mula sa local government hanggang national government, ang tagal namin maramdaman.
Buti nga mayroon din NGO tumulong, yun, nagbigay para magpagawa ng
Philippine Islands. Mabuhay.
You're listening to Podcast.Ph.
Inamin ko ako nanloting din. Pero lahat ng niloting ko, puro pagkain.
November 8 kasi yung typhoon Yolanda, yung birthday ko yun November 8, ma-54 na po ako sa November 8. Sa hindi pa, wala pang